Hello everyone. Armag with you. And today we will talk about the types of random maps in the game Rise of Nations, their features and which nations are best to choose. Don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel and put on the bell. And also write comments. This will help promote the video for our favorite game on YouTube. Let's start with land maps. The first maps will be completely without water Great Sahara. Desert map. There are only a few oases with trees, so you need to build and improve sawmills and collect rare resources that add wood. There is never water here. There are mountains. There are forests in the center. You need to try to capture them. There is a lot of open space on the map, so you need more towers and forts on resources, since there are few obstacles on the map and enemy attacks can come from anywhere. Features of resources. Forests are often scarce, so you need to choose the places to build cities wisely. A good economy is provided by the miracle of the Temple of Tikal. It increases total wood production by plus 50%. And the porcelain tower increases the rate at which rare resources are harvested in your territory. Some of the best nations to play this map in nomad mode: Japan. Lakota. When playing by the standard rules, the following nations look good on the map. The French have an advantage on this map, as their lumberjack camps have 2 additional worker slots, making it fairly easy to increase wood production. The Nubians profit from increasing the amount of rare resources on this map. Maya require 20% less timber for civilian construction. Their forts, towers and cities fire additional projectiles, providing some protection from early attacks and attacks. But according to many online players, Maya is one of the weakest nations. Southwest Mesa. The main feature of the map is a lot of winding hills, which have ascents to them only from one side, which makes it very difficult for the exploration and the path for the armies of the players. There are a lot of mountains, which makes it extremely difficult to get to some cities. There is no water on the map. Features of resources. There is a lot of metal, there is enough wood. Perhaps the best nations for this nomad mode map for you are the Incas, Japan, Germany, and Mongolia. Turkey also looks good with siege weapons, which are located on the hills and shoot the enemy army and buildings. Old World Classic land map. You need to carefully build the first city, because there may be a large area with no forest at all. The mountains are large and there are many of them. Sometimes there are large forests on the map. There are rivers. Not a bad choice of nation for this map would be Japan and Germany. Features of resources. You need to be attentive to the forest. There is a lot of metal. Himalayas. Snow map. The forest is at the edges of the map, and many mountains are in the center. The map is very rich in metal. There can be many narrow passages in the center. It is better to build the first city closer to the edge of the map, so as not to be left without a tree. Features of resources. In abundance and forests, but only at the edges, and metal, closer to the center. A good choice of nation for a map in nomad mode is the Incas. The dense forest is also beneficial to France and the Iroquois. It will be easy for the Iroquois to explore the map through the forests. Amazon rainforest. There are many rivers on the map that slow down the movement of units. There are no lakes and no ocean, therefore only ground and air forces are fighting. There are many rare resources and ruins on the map that you need to quickly find and collect. Players start symmetrically at the edges. If players play in an alliance, then next, medium to large forests can serve as walls against all nations except the Iroquois. There is always a mountain in the center. There are also small mountains along the edges. build smelters to increase the productivity of existing mines and try to get the Angkor Wat Wonder, plus 50% metal production. Nubians or Dutch will have an advantage here, at the expense of rare resources. If you control a lot of rare resources, research the taxation technologies in the temple and try to get the porcelain tower to get the most out of it. Features of resources: there is a lot of forests, with metal is lucky. There are a lot of ruins and rare resources. When playing in nomad mode, the optimal choice of nations would be Iroquois and Lakota. The next type of land maps is lakes. Great Lakes. There are lakes on the map. Playing one by one lakes are small. They help the economy, but they don't play a key role. Marine and fishing can be used. The map generates from 5 to 7 lakes towards the center, on large sizes. There can be one lake at the arena size. Each lake can contain a different number of fish and oil deposits. Starting locations are generated symmetrically around the edges of the map. The center of the map is almost always not water and has a few rare resources. There is a good place for a city, but which will be vulnerable to attacks. You can use bombardier-Avokny ships to attack enemy buildings and cities located near the coast. Please note that ships do not take damage from attrition. Predicting where enemy ground units will pass is easier compared to most other maps due to the limited amount of terrain. Redoubts can be built around land and coastlines to hinder the advance of enemies. Lakes are usually located closer to the center of the map. So some players may decide to place their capitals in the corners. It is possible to invade enemy territory from the sea, but remember that transport ships are very vulnerable to attacks, especially from forts, towers and cities. The resources are well balanced and everything should be enough. Preferred nations: Lakota. Also, due to the large number of rare resources, the Nubians and Holland have advantages. Mediterranean and overland map, in the center of which there is a huge lake with a large number of fish deposits, and therefore fishing. In the center of the lake there is a small island with rare resources. The map is famous for its naval wars and battles for control of the lake. Warships can bombard all coasts. So important buildings can be built further from the coast. Mountains are scattered around the edges of the map in abundance. The forests are small, but in sufficient quantity. Therefore, all the resources are more than enough. A good choice of a nation would be Germany, India or Bantu. African watering hole. Sandy desert map. There is a lake in the center of the map. Rare resources are located around this lake. Controlling the lake helps improve the economy, but a balance needs to be found between land and water war. Features of resources. Usually there are enough resources, but sometimes there is a shortage of wood, metal, if you choose unsuccessful places for cities. Few rare resources, therefore it is important to control the lake in the center and the resources around it. Lots of oil. It is very difficult to single out the preferred nation. Possibly Lakota or Australian mainland. A continent with a desert or jungle surrounded by an ocean. There are a small number of mountains scattered around the island. But sometimes there can be a shortage of metal. The forest is scattered in small areas on the island. There are a lot of fish and it has a huge impact on the economy, so you need to quickly go to the construction of a dock. Naval wars are an important aspect of the game on this map. It is also sometimes important to take control of whale prey. Since both players are on the same island, they will have to fight on land too. Among nations, they perform well in the nomad format. Mongols, Lakota, Turkey and India colonial powers or forces. A huge wide navigable river flows in the middle of the map, which separates one mainland from another, getting two peninsulas. Players start at two opposite ends of the same island. There are a lot of fish in the river, so building a dock will help improve the economy. The starting island is rather poor. Players get one mountain each, so there is a shortage of metal, and a small amount of wood. The center of the island is pretty empty. But the neighboring island has many mountains and forests. Therefore, capturing and holding it can give a very tangible advantage. Nile Delta, a deserted map that is divided by a large river. Players play on two peninsulas. On one side of the river there is a wide delta in the form of a large bay with an abundance of fish. Mountains and forests are enough for the development of nations. The fleet plays an extremely important role when playing on this map. Atlantic powers players start on two opposite continents. Mountains and forests are enough. There are a lot of fish around. Another variation of maps for playing through the fleet. British Isles, two large continents in the middle of the ocean. Forests and mountains, although few, but quite enough for the development of the belligerent nations. There are a lot of fish around the edges of the map. You can attack the continents from all sides, since the water washes the continents from all sides. East versus West players start on two peninsulas. One to the west, the other to the east. There are enough forests and mountains. There are a lot of fish in the ocean. Water takes up about a third of the map. Therefore, marine intelligence is very important. New World, a map consisting of two poor and small islands at the edges of the map, on which players start. There are very few resources for development and you need to colonize neighboring lands. Between the players there is a huge matrix, with a large number of both forests and mountains, for which the players are fighting. The fleet plays a decisive role in winning this map. Warring states. In the center of the map there is one extended continent, around which there are smaller islands. All nations start on the central mainland. Part of the main continent has a river. Players line up on this mainland. There are very few trees on the map, 1 to 2 mountains are given per continent, for which the players are fighting. Therefore, the metal is also in short supply. It is important to build smelting furnaces and build the wonder of the world, Angkor Wat. Oil is normal. Most of it is in the ocean. But each player will receive one source of oil at the start. Rare resources are normal. Each player is given one rare resource, the rest must be sought on neighboring islands. There are 3 or more of them. There are many fish and whales on the water. The central part of the mainland is often empty. There are no resources, but you can territorially crush the enemy at the expense of this place. We need to quickly try to capture the islands, they will strengthen the economy. The Navy plays an extremely important role in the game. Wonders of the world are very vulnerable to attacks. Due to the sea siege, you can easily weaken the enemy. Attacks usually come from the edges of the island, so that later they can land there and reinforce the naval invasion with land ones. Resource features. Deficiency of metal and wood. You need to use the sea to get gold and buy missing resources. The best nations to map in nomad format are Turkey, Bantu, Germany, and Mongolia. East India. The map consists of 2 small islands where players start and many smaller islands. All islands are rather poor and therefore will have to deal with the colonization of neighboring islands and interfere with the development of the opponent. All islands are very vulnerable to ship attacks, which usually bring victory to one of the nations. It is better to hide important buildings closer to the city center.